So when I transitioned from, having a badass team, a badass mission, a badass purpose, I knew what I was going to do in the morning when I got up. I knew when I went to bed, I knew what I was going to do the next day. I knew everything about my life and my purpose and my mission while I was in the military. When I transitioned out, all of that was gone. And so I went from having mission and purpose and a team to having nothing.
Hey, I want to welcome our guest today, Will Branum, who is a former Navy SEAL, retired after 26 years of service. He is the founder and CEO of Naked Warrior Recovery, which is a CBD-focused company focused on recovery of veterans and first responders. He retired from the military in 2018 and started having symptoms, physical, physiological, emotional, different things that he was facing, and apparently CBD changed his life, and he just made a commitment to creating a company, a product, a philosophy, and a culture behind helping veterans, first responders deal with the things that he had to deal with and had finally overcome. So we talk about what he calls a get naked mindset. We talk about his life in the SEAL teams. We talk about transitions, and we talk about ultimately what men can do to be game changers, be change drivers, and to ultimately be better men who have a better life. So welcome, Will Branum, to Last in Line Podcast. Will Branum, man. Hey, welcome to Last in Line Podcast, sir.
Thanks for having me here. I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah, man, it's awesome to meet you. A mutual friend of ours connected us, and I love it. And I started looking at your story, and I love it even more. I'm glad we could do it this quickly after kind of the introduction. And I'm respectful of your time because I know you're a CEO, man, and you're out there doing it and making a huge difference. But this series we're doing, this recording, is for what I call Change Drivers. Is my series for the month of April, and driving change agents, guys that are out doing it, trying to make a positive impact for change. And reading your bio, man, you are doing that. But first, we got to cover a little bit of background. So talk to us, because we all, the audience knows by now you're a former Navy SEAL, retired, 26 years in the military. Talk to us how you got into that and why the SEAL teams, and then just kind of a little bit of things about maybe the team you were on and just the dynamics involved and what made it so challenging.
Sure. So I grew up in a little town outside of Meridian, Mississippi, heavily involved in the Boy Scouts. This was, before there was the internets that we currently have today. We didn't have cable TV either. So we had 4 channels growing up. So I watched a lot of John Wayne. He was in a movie called The Green Berets. So I was like, well, maybe I want to be a Green Beret. I watched John Rambo. I watched Kung Fu Theater. So I wanted to also be a ninja when I grew up. Let's see, I watched a movie called Delta Force that Chuck Norris was in. So I always knew that I wanted to be part of some sort of small elite military unit, not the ones that line up on the battlefield and shoot at one another. I want to be a little more sneaky. I want to be, be unseen, but have a great impact, in combat. And so I went to a national jamboree. Was between my 11th and 12th grade of high school. We were very poor, but because I was an Eagle Scout and I was very involved in the Boy Scouts. The Boy Scout Association paid for me to go to this event. And I met a kid on this jamboree and he said, I'm going to be a Navy SEAL when I grow up, and I want to fly F-14 Tomcats. And I was like, that's cool. What's a Navy SEAL? And he explained it to me. He's like, they jump out of airplanes, they blow stuff up, super elite, they scuba dive, they do all these other things. And I thought I liked swimming back then. I realize now that I don't really at all. I still do it, but I'm not a fan. Yeah. So I joined the Navy actually before I even started my my last year of high school, before my 12th grade of high school, in the delayed entry program. I joined the military, But I didn't leave for boot camp until after I graduated. I graduated and then, went off to boot camp and then started my Navy career.
Yeah. That's you definitely had it dialed in to exactly what you wanted to be. Like, I can imagine that's probably a small, percentage of the people that just join the military. They just kind of get in for a job, some of them, and then some of them just because their family did it. But you were like Tomcat, Navy SEAL, like, this is what I'm going to do. So you've obviously had a very decorated career, like 26 years of service. You were in Iraq, you were a sniper instructor, like you're in the thick of the thick. And I'm interested to know just general information about the SEAL teams. We're going to suffice it to say you guys are cut from a different cloth. We're going to suffice it to say that there's a chip in you guys that is not in me or the average Joe. Talk about what makes you guys such like elite warriors, elite, just mental toughness, like just captains of resilience. Like what makes a highly effective, efficient, successful SEAL? Like, what is that quality?
Well, I think it starts in SEAL training. And for me, I didn't go straight from boot camp to SEAL training. It took me 3 years after I joined the Navy to actually get to SEAL training because I made some errors along the way. I wasn't quite physically fit enough, physically fit and mentally fit, I don't think, really to go. Because I didn't, I joined boot camp, went to boot camp. I took the SEAL screening test and I failed it. And when I say I failed it, I probably could have passed it, but I quit on the push-ups. You only there's a minimum number and I was shooting for the minimum. I wasn't shooting for like outstanding. And so I got to it's only 52 is the minimum. And I think I got to 38 or something. I'm like, oh, I'm tired. I don't know if I could, this is that's a lot more push-ups. But it's after a swim, and then you have a lot of other events in that screening test. And so I thought, so then I'm like, okay, you can take it again later, not a big deal. And I went to my technical school because you're not just a Navy SEAL, you have to be a Navy something else in order to advance. Now you can just be a SEAL. But back then you had to be something else. And so I became a gunner's mate. And a gunner's mates, they fix those gun mounts and those missile launchers that are on those big gray floaty things out there in the water. Yeah. And so I went to that school, but it was in the winter north of Chicago in the middle of winter. It's cold, it's dark, it's scary. I did not want to get up early to go take the SEAL screening test during that time because that sucks. I should have. That would have changed really a lot of things that happened with me. But because I didn't, I thought I'll take this other school for 4 months in Virginia Beach and I'll get in better shape and then I'll go to SEAL training. Well, what I didn't know is when I took that school for 4 months, that I had 24 months of obligated service to the Navy. Okay. And so I went to that ship for 24 months. And when it was time for me to leave, the guy that was in charge of me going somewhere else said, I'm not going to let you go because you went to that school for 4 months. You're too critical to the Navy. No one cares about Navy SEALs. You're going to do this job. And so,
and it was peacetime, right? At the time,
peacetime. No one cared. They're
no
okay, if you don't get out, we don't need people. Get out. And so the chief of naval operations came to my ship in Yokosuka, Japan. And just to kind of describe who that person is, he's the most senior guy in the Navy. The only people who are more senior to him is the Secretary of Defense and the President of the United States. Yeah. He is the man. Yeah. And he came to my little ship in Yokosuka, Japan. There's 15, 20 ships there. He came to my ship, no one else's ship. And had CNO's call. He's like, this is my vision of the Navy, blah, blah, whatever. Does anyone have any questions? I raised my hand. I joined the Navy to be a SEAL. I think I deserve a chance to go. My detailer won't let me go, blah, blah, blah. I think I deserve a chance to go. What do you think? He turns to my commanding officer and he says, is he a good guy? My CO says, yeah, he was a sailor of the quarter this quarter, which is employee of the month. Yeah. And he turns back to me and he says, because I did a good job sweeping or something. And he turns back to me. He's like, check, you'll be in the first class after your PRD, which is planned rotational date. And 6 weeks later, I'm off to California to start SEAL training. And what I realized when I got there is I wasn't in very good shape. I thought I was in good shape, but I learned very quickly why it is the hardest military training in the world.
I'm going to surmise and sum up all that you're saying about that journey, that it's probably more than you were just a good guy that makes up why Navy SEALs are successful. But it's, to me, I think about this mental capacity that you guys develop, or you already had, and it may be a little of both, but it's not just physical. Yeah. It's not just physical taxing. It's not physically taxing. It's mentally taxing. And so the reason I wanted you to set that stage is because we're going to go down a path on this conversation that talks about a lot of some mental anguish that you kind of, and just some different symptoms that you were seeing, but you were taking a different route in medicating those symptoms. And then the body, the toll that it took on your body. And you kind of alluded to, some of the sand isn't your everyday sand, and some of the water isn't your everyday water. And so your body is just getting pushed to its absolute limit, and then a little more. So through your service, like, they obviously prepared you for combat, prepared you at a high level, but you guys kind of walk away just being a little different people, because you're used to so much more. And the line at the grocery store isn't as big a deal to you guys as it might be to people who haven't been down the road that you've been. So give us an idea what you went through. I mean, we're going to fast forward 26 years, right? You went through this whole career, you get out. When did you start? Two questions. When did you start sort of realizing something was a little off with mentally and physically? And then what did you do along the way to try to, cope with that?
So I think, to kind of frame it a little bit, is SEAL training was easy because someone was always telling you what to do. As you move up in leadership, you start being the person that tells someone what to do, but there's still always someone telling you what to do and kind of how to do it. As I transitioned out of the military, I didn't have that anymore. So when I transitioned from, having a badass team, a badass mission, a badass purpose, I knew what I was going to do in the morning when I got up. I knew when I went to bed, I knew what I was going to do the next day. I knew everything about my life and my purpose and my mission while I was in the military. When I transitioned out, all of that was gone. And so I went from having mission and purpose and a team to having nothing. When I transitioned out, there was no one holding me accountable. And I had what I like to call baggage. I had a bunch of noise in my head that it was, some of it was from, time in the military, some of occupational hazards. Some of it was also toxic relationships, maybe, having the wrong people in my life. And they put this crap into the bags that I'm carrying around. Some of it I put in, other people put other stuff in. I ended up carrying this weight around. And so I feel like I'm always in a fight, whether it's from, stuff from work, stuff from my personal life, stuff from whatever. And so what I ended up doing is, to turn all this noise off in my head, is I would, at the end of the day, I would just start drinking vodka and just glasses and glasses and glasses, just to self-medicate, just enough to turn down the noise in my head, or dull the noise so that I couldn't hear it so much. And I would do that until I fell asleep. But if you frame that differently, I drank until I passed out at night. And then I would have to get up in the morning and work through that still drunk, hungover period and try to be successful in some way, shape, or form. And then it was just this vicious cycle. The
darkest memories are the ones that are kind of pelting you like a hailstorm of memories. So you did this for how long? How long was this, the quote unquote coping mechanism?
It actually started before I got out, probably a couple years before I got out. My last 3 years, I was the science and technology director at the headquarters here, where I went out and I found $16 million of other people's money to help solve problems that we had. So I wasn't on the team, but I was supporting the team. But I was also getting, my bachelor's and my master's all in a 3-year period. Yeah. It started back then. And then as I transitioned out of the military, but I still had team and purpose and whatever. But then when I transitioned out, it was all gone. And so it got even worse. And I think that's, there are so many veterans, first responders, even just high performers that, they do something great. Maybe they sell a company and then all of a sudden they're like, what's my mission? What's my purpose? What where's my team? I don't have that anymore. And so it's, as I've kind of dug into this, it's not uncommon for people to, in times of transition, and often usually major transitions, where they struggle. And
Sure. Yeah. Well, and so, and it's not, obviously it's not just limited to the military population that struggles with this kind of thing. So even, let's say, the non-military service members that listen to this podcast, what do you have? Because we're going to evolve and crescendo into the business you started and really dig into that some. But I want to ask, because maybe someone's listening to this that's thinking, hey, I'm right in the middle of where he was. Like, I'm in this transition period. I'm in this fork in the road. Can you talk about, aside from, well, I just wouldn't have drank as much, like, what could you tell them about inside them right now that needs to be examined further in that season they're in now, that maybe you wish you would have taken a little more examination of back then?
What I tell people now is, before you see the transition coming, like I knew that they're only going to let me stay in the military for a certain amount of time. Yeah. I was still in denial about getting out. And so I didn't so I tell people now, create a plan. And I have like 5 SEAL secrets, if you will, of life transitions. And you can apply these to pretty much anything that you do. But number one is make a plan. It doesn't have to be a good plan. Just make a plan. Have an idea of where you're going to go and what you're going to do. Those times of transition are the times where we're the most vulnerable, and we end up usually getting ambushed at those times. And in life, same thing happens. We find ourselves in these transitional periods. We haven't practiced these transitions, and that's when something hits us that we're not expecting. That's just one of the things that we teach, is just like work through those transitions, because those are the times where you're the most vulnerable. And I didn't do that. I didn't do that when I got out of the military, and most people don't.
Which is crucial, because it's the fact that, to stay in line with our theme of change drivers, like, you're now providing that for people because you didn't do it, but you saw the necessity of it. And so now you're changing their environment, their mindset in a positive way, because you maybe missed out on it. Same, maybe even similar to like a guy that didn't grow up with a good dad, right? He's going to be a good dad because he knows the value of it, and missing out on it, what it could have meant to him had he had it. So I like that you do that in your work now. And I heard you say something in that first, I think it was point number 2 of that 5-point, the breakdown of have somebody punch holes in it. Well, you've got to have a group around you in order to even have that dynamic take place. So the group around you is huge. And you, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but if it was me and you said plan ahead, because when that last day of service is coming, Mr. Listener, when your day of transition is going to be, a lot of times, plan ahead on the front end, like get people involved before you're standing out in the desert naked, stranded, right? And so I think it takes intentionality to get those people around you before you actually need them, or before it's actually like an emergency. So speaking, like, you got to a point, speaking of maybe a little bit of a, emergent situation, you get to a point where you're like, okay, this whole vodka every night it's just masking, it's not fixing. When did you have an aha moment with some of the other options that were out there? Like, you discovered CBD. Right. Am I correct? So talk about how you got into that place.
So I heard about CBD. Like, CBD is like super popular. There's CBD stores all over the place and gas stations. It's like, it's a flooded market, but I'll touch on that in just a second.
Yeah.
But I heard about CBD before it was cool. Like, it's cool and popular now. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
But I heard about it a couple years before I got out of the military. I was listening to a podcast on the way to work, and the guy was talking about, medical marijuana, and everyone knows about the molecule THC, but there's this other molecule that not many people know about, and it's called CBD, and it helps with stress, anxiety, chronic inflammation. It's been shown to help with like certain kinds of epilepsy, different kinds of pain. It helps people get better sleep. And I was like, I need all of that. But I'm still in the military. I still maintain my top secret clearance. I'm probably not going to go down the road of medical marijuana or anything else and lose, that's a quick way to exit the military.
Yeah.
And so I waited till I got out. I'm also a child of Nancy Reagan's war on drugs. Just say no. We have a problem with that whole thing. And it was a very powerful campaign back in the day. And then I got out of the military, and I struggled and I struggled and I struggled. And it wasn't until almost, 6 months later after I got out, I tried it in 2019. So I got out in 2018, and I didn't try it until it was almost a year, about 10 months before I actually tried CBD. And some of it was, I didn't have any money to buy it. I didn't know where to buy it from. I didn't know the best place. There was a lot of unknowns. And so I was in Virginia having lunch with a former teammate of mine. And I said, when I leave here, I'm going to see if I can find a CBD shop and buy some CBD, because maybe what you have in Virginia is better than what we have in Hawaii. And he was like, if you want CBD, I've got some at home. He's kind of an Instagram influencer person, and companies send him stuff all the time. So he gave me a bottle. And what I say is I took it for the, 30 days, and I didn't really feel anything. Maybe I slept a little bit better, and maybe I was a little less pissed off. But what I noticed at the end, like when I kind of finished that bottle and I did kind of a self-assessment, is I like to say that, water boils at 212 degrees. I was probably living my life at 210 degrees. So it didn't take much. One of those little pop shots, and I'm like hitting the boiling point very quickly. And so over time, I went from like 210 to 205 to 200 to 195 to 190, maybe 185. My fuse got longer. I got out of that red zone of just like ready to burst any moment. And so I was able to process things a little bit better. And I was also able to drink less, because I didn't have to like manage this noise so much. Like I wasn't like depending on alcohol to turn down the noise. Like the noise was like starting to turn down. Mm-hmm. And then, all the pains in my body, because I've got a lot of them, they were just not as bad. So they're still there. It's still, hard getting up in the morning and moving around, but they weren't quite as bad. And so I stopped, I ran out, and I started going back to that red zone again, like, orange, red zone. And so I'm like, well, maybe it was placebo, maybe it was CBD. I don't know. So I tried a different brand, and then I had similar results. And so now I'm very interested in the CBD industry. It certainly impacted my life in a very positive way. Mm-hmm. And so I met someone in the CBD industry, and I wanted her to hire me. Again, I'm looking for a mission. I'm looking for purpose. I'm looking for team. And she was like, well, why don't you just start your own CBD company? And I said, I don't know how to do that. And she leaned in and she said, you're a Navy SEAL. You can figure it out.
Hey, do yourself a favor when you get done listening to this episode and go check out my sponsors on their websites. Those links will be in the show notes. But I want to thank the following for supporting Last in Line podcast. I want to thank Armored Nation Coffee. I want to thank the folks at Do Work That Matters. I want to thank Kevin Fulton over at Lead Like Lions. Thank you to Gridiron Coffee. And thank you to Cowboy Revolution Apparel. Those are just a few, and we're adding to the list, but these are ones who have started with us at ground zero and are sticking with us till the end, hopefully. So go check out their website, get some of their products. Now back to the show.
I was like, may I please have my man card back? You're correct. And so she gave me my man card back, and I put it in my pocket, and I swear to never lose it again.
Yeah.
And because
you just need that confirmation. Right? Yeah. You just need that reinforcement. Hey, like, reminder.
You're good.
Tap you on the shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. So, so I started researching the industry. I found out that it's very dirty. A lot of bad actors out there, get rich quick kind of thing. And because it's a very new product, very new trendy. To the, trendy, yeah. It is trendy. But hemp, which is where CBD comes from, hemp only became legal December 20th of 2018 after the passing of the Farm Bill. Like the new Farm Bill of 2018 made hemp legal because it was an illegal product, illegal plant up until that point. And so hemp has been an industrial plant for thousands of years, but it was propaganda that made it illegal.
Sure.
And we're not going to go down that road unless you really want to.
No, we're good.
We don't have to. But anyway, so it's legal. So now CBD is legal. Because CBD is a molecule, one of 120 different molecules and terpenes. Terpenes are essential oils that come from the hemp plant. Mm-hmm. And so So my goal, my mission was to create the highest quality CBD in the market. So what I did is I started reaching out to different suppliers, I'm like, what do you have? How do you do it? La, la, la. And I'm like really digging in because I found like 70% of the companies out there are dirty. They don't have CBD in their product. They don't have the CBD they say they have in their product. They don't do independent third-party testing. They have high levels of heavy metals, mercury, arsenic, lead, things like that. Pesticides, herbicides, all, the FDA went out and like has just done tons of testing of products. And they're like, dude, this industry is not good. And so my mission was to have the highest quality product on the market. And then as I did more introspective and like, what else do we do? How else can I reach? And what's my purpose? Now, I'm still working on purpose and team and mission. And then I looked at my demographic as a veteran. We've lost more than 22 veterans every single day. So there's a metric out there that 22 veterans take their lives every single day. We've lost more veterans to suicide than we have in 20 years of sustained combat in 2 theaters of operation. Yeah. That is astounding. I remember driving
let that sink
and
in.
Seeing like people like with the number of Americans that have been killed in Iraq. We were in Afghanistan before we were in Iraq, and most people don't even know that. You see these giant numbers, but no one is talking about this 22 a day. No one is talking about the number of veterans that are taking their own life. And then as I thought about it more, and this actually just like popped into my head of a few months ago, I was doing a podcast with 2 other SEALs, and it just came out of my mouth that my dad was one of those veterans. My dad killed himself. And so and he's a veteran. And so that made this mission even more personal to me. So again, our mission at Naked Warrior Recovery is 22-0, is to eliminate that metric of that veteran suicide.
Yeah. Yeah. And man, so obviously you're making a dent in some of that with, and I know you're not limiting your reach to that group of folks, obviously first responders, military, but that gives you kind of the mission, here's the upper level of the mission, and then it trickles down to other people. But
right.
So dumb question, but I would assume there are a lot of other SEALs that have gotten into this space of creating CBD or owning a company.
There are a handful of SEALs out there that
are doing the CBD stuff.
I don't think they have the same. They haven't come out and said, that is their mission. Yeah. Some of them they're just entrepreneurial, and they're like, oh, there's a niche, there's a whatever. And so, or they have a big following, and either way, they're all doing great work. And so I support all of them.
That's great.
It was funny. I was at an event about 1.5 years ago, and I ran into another SEAL who had a CBD company bigger than mine. And he was like, dude, how did you beat me to that name? I love that name. I love that slogan of get naked, because, that's awesome. And I'm like, thanks. And so he's got a bunch of even like SEAL clients that buy from him and other veterans. And they're, we're all trying to make an impact. We're all trying to, change the world, make that number from 22-0,
for
and
sure.
just to make an impact. But CBD is only a modality. It's not like a cure-all. Yeah. It has helped me in so many different ways, but I still have work to do. I still had to like change what I was thinking about up here. And so that's where, that's this get naked mindset that I talk about. That's why my slogan is get naked. And it's not about, we talked about before the show, with your kids and stuff.
Right.
They're like, oh, we're going to talk about get naked. And it's not exactly what you think.
So, okay. So give me some context. Cause when we finish recording, I'm going to go in and we're going to present this whole thing and be like, told you guys, it wasn't literal.
Right.
So really it had to do with, and I want you to definitely dive into how you came up with, but it obviously has to do with the mindset of stripping off some layers that have held you back or have kind 100%. Of paralyzed you in your progress. Talk about it, man. Talk about the naked mindset.
Yeah. So naked, it's not, I say, I call it the 5 SEAL secrets. Yeah. And because there's 5 letters in the word naked.
Okay.
And if you to kind of break it down, if you want to think like a Navy SEAL, you have to get naked. And it's not about being physically naked. It's about taking that ego off, taking that armor, taking all that baggage that you're carrying around off, setting it in the corner and becoming vulnerable. We came into the world naked, with no clothes, with no nothing. We're going to leave the world with nothing. It's the most pure state that we can ever be in.
Mm-hmm.
The end.
Mm-hmm.
But it's about becoming your authentic self. It's about becoming the most pure, authentic version of yourself. But it's also an acronym, because in the military, we have a gajillion acronyms. SEAL is an acronym. Everything is an acronym. So I turned naked into an acronym. And I actually give this as a keynote presentation. And I'm thinking that maybe I should start giving it at schools as well, because I've had enough people say, why don't they teach this in school? I don't know. Maybe we can change that. So I'll break down the naked really quickly. And I'll just go through the acronym.
You might have to get some staff on hand just to keep kids from taking it literally.
Yeah, right.
That might be part of the hurdle at first.
You never know. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll do a little testing.
That's awesome.
So the acronym. So the N stands for never quit, and I don't mean never quit smoking or drinking or getting out of a toxic relationship. I mean never quit on yourself. I mean never quit. Trying to improve your life, trying to improve the position you're in. If you made a conscious effort to start something, especially if it was something hard, then you should take that thing all the way to the end, whatever the end looks like. Maybe it's selling a business. Maybe it's just like, I've reached a point where I can't be in this anymore. I have to move on to the next thing. Yeah. That's fine. But again, if it's hard, if it's challenging, that's probably a good thing. And so, but you're not always going to feel like you want to do it. You're not always going to get up in the morning and be like, I want to just go crush this thing, but you still need to take action and need to move the ball down the field anyway. And so what I like to say is create small victories every day. It doesn't matter what it is. You take the biggest thing that you have and you chop that thing up into little bitty pieces. And then you attack one of those pieces a day. If you attack 2, 3, 4, 8 of those things a day and get them done, awesome. But as long as you got one thing done, you started moving closer to the end, whatever that end was. The A is accept failure, because failure has been the biggest teacher in my life. I've done some really good things and I've done some really bad things, but I can do things right, but I'm not really learning until I actually fail. Yeah. And I like to use Michael Jordan as an example. He's missed more than, 9,000 shots in his basketball career. He's lost more than 300 games, missed more than 30 game-winning shots. Yes. What did he do after every single game? Did he go party with the team? No, he went back to the gym and he worked on every shot that he missed until he didn't miss them anymore. That's what made him great. He accepted that failure. He kept going. I mean, the K is kill mediocrity. We are surrounded by mediocrity every day. We've got technology. Technology is awesome, but it also makes us weak and lazy, and it gives us excuses to not do things like attack our goals for the day, to not work out, to not do something, to not get up on time, to hit snooze, whatever it is. Yeah. We are at war. You can hit a button on your phone and have ice cream delivered in 30 minutes or less. That's awesome. It also sucks. It also makes us lazy, makes us find excuses to not do things. And so what I say, the way to kill mediocrity is to compete. Start small. Compete in kindness. Compete in generosity. Compete in gratitude. Nice. How hard is that? Nice. That's easy, but it's so hard for us to do. And then start competing against your ego, because your ego knows your strengths. It knows your weaknesses. It knows exactly what to tell you to make you quit on yourself, to make you mediocre. And if you want to change your life and the life and the people around you, you have to have this uncommon desire to kill the mediocrity in your life. The E is expose your fears. And I don't mean lions and tigers and bears. I mean the fear that lives in that dark place in your brain that you don't want to share with anyone. You don't want to tell anyone about. You're not brave enough to share or even face it. And I like to think of that fear to be like a vampire, because a vampire, it lives in the darkness and it sucks the life out of you. And so does that fear. It was sucking the life out of me for years and years and years. Yeah. And it wasn't until I learned to expose the fear. Just like you kill a vampire, you expose it to sunlight, you kill those fears by exposing them. And
I got to ask you though, Will, something personal. So share with the audience so they can relate a little bit. What's one of the fears that you had to sort of expose before you maybe jumped into this venture of starting a company?
There's fear of failure, fear of success, which is the weirdest thing on the planet.
Fear of
success.
What
the hell is that? Fear of success. If I become too successful, I'll have to pay more in taxes. I'll have more work to do. I won't have time to do the things that I actually want to do. I can make up a whole lot of fears and like stresses and things like that. Fear of failure. okay, well, someone said if you start this thing, you're not gonna succeed. I hope someone says that to me, because that's a fire. Yeah. That's a challenge. I'm like, okay, now that's competition. I'm competing against whatever you just said.
That covers the kill the mediocrity. Yeah.
Right. But the fear is like, I don't know how to do that. And I got called out. I don't know how to start a CBD company. And the girl called me out. She was like, you're a Navy SEAL. You can figure it out. Like, she believed in me more than I did.
It's awesome.
And so, because I wanted to rely on someone else. Other fears, relationships. I try not to say too much about that, but I'll tell you that I have more stress and anxiety from relationships than I do from 26 years and 7 combat deployments.
That's so crazy. Yeah.
And so
somebody need to hear that. That's why I wanted to ask you that. Just to hear that you have. But it took me like a long time. Like, I depending on the audience, for sure, I have been more open, but there's just like, I still have to protect some things. That's all I needed. Yeah. That's all I wanted the audience to hear, because, on the surface, it sounds like everything just lines up. All the T's and I's are dotted and crossed, right? And everything in Will's life is just roses and rainbows. So I just wanted you to touch on that. Like, so that's fine. Go ahead.
And I've done, so just to kind of put this into perspective, is I've done in the last 12 months, I've done about 150 podcast interviews. Yeah. And when I started, like, first I was like, I don't have anything to share. No one wants to know what I have to say or think or do. That was also some fears that I had. Yeah. Like, who cares what I have to say? I've got all sorts of failures syndrome. That people are like, 100%. Sure. So I've got a ton of that stuff going on. I'm working through it. But part of that is like just this right here, getting in front of people, sharing my story. Yeah. It scares me 100% of the time. But if I don't expose it, then it will control me. The D is to do the work.
Okay.
So, and what I mean by that is we are, kind of like on the kill mediocrity side. Mm-hmm. We are in a world, we are consumed by instant gratification. We've got TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, and social media is awesome, and technology, but it's also led us to have very short attention spans and expecting things to happen immediately. Yeah. And so there's this saying out there that you eat an elephant one bite at a time, or Rome wasn't built in a day. Yeah. I guarantee you it was built every single day until it became an empire.
That's right.
And so in the SEAL teams, we have this saying. It says, we say to earn your trident every day. And quite honestly, when I got out of the military, I didn't have that, or when I got out of SEAL training, I didn't have that mindset. Now, we didn't have that saying back then, because I'm a little older than most. We came up with it later, but I didn't have that mindset. And I learned very quickly when I got to the SEAL teams that you're expected to perform better today than you did any other day of your life. You're expected to show up, and you're expected to be more present. You're expected to perform better. You're supposed to be a better leader. You're supposed to shoot better. It doesn't matter what the thing is. Run faster, swim faster, be a better, skydiver, military free fall parachutist, whatever it is, scuba diver. And that's why they say the only easy day was yesterday, because it doesn't matter how awesome you did yesterday. This is a whole new challenge, a whole new day. You got new obstacles, whether they're mental or physical. Yeah. Even though it was really hard yesterday, that was done. You got to reprove yourself every single day. And so we forget about that. We're stuck in instant gratification, and we just think, oh, we did it once, we don't need to do it again. You have to keep doing it every single day. Yeah. We need those wake up calls in life, and that's to do the work. So again, to really the get naked mindset is to, awesome. It's the N is for never quit. The A is accept failure. The K is to kill mediocrity. The E is expose your fears, and the D is do the work. And I share this with everyone. If you go to the website, the number 5, SEAL, SEAL, secrets.com, 5sealsecrets.com, put your name and email in there, and I will email you a copy of, it's like a 7-ish page. I'm going to update it with cooler pictures here pretty soon. PDF, and it breaks down every piece of this. So you can go back and review it and look at it. And just to kind of share a quick story about it, I shared it with a buddy of mine about a year ago. And he was having some trouble with his with the CEO of his company, because they got a bunch of venture capital money, and and he was headbutting the CEOs because the CEO was like putting all this extra pressure because he was getting pressure from the venture capital company to like, double profits quarter over quarter, which is just about impossible to do. But they're like, we want our money back. And so my buddy Jim, he talked about relationships and some other, baggage that he has. And I was like, and then I talked about like the strategic plan that he should implement going and talking to his CEO the next day. And so, but I also said, check out these 5 SEAL secrets. He downloaded it, he read it, he printed it off, he laminated it, he stuck it to his wall. And the next day he went into his CEO and he said, hey, John, listen. And my friend he's more reserved. He's not very like in your face. He's like, listen, he walks in, he's like, okay, John, check it out. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to perform for you. The CEO was like, what? Hold on. First of all, why are you being like forward? Number 2, why are you saying you're afraid? And number 3, why are you being honest about it? No one does any of those things. So let's talk about it. He was like, oh, my buddy, his 5 SEAL secrets. I'm exposing my fears right now. I'm afraid if you talk to us the way you did the other day, then I will not be able to perform for you at the level you need me to, And like, he was like, oh, can I get a copy of that 5 SEAL secrets? So
no way.
That was just a quick,
so cool.
Like that's turning into some more speaking engagements and some corporate coaching. So
that's great, man. That is cool. Awesome. And that's a great story too, to end on, man. I love that. And we could talk for hours. And so what I want to do is give you an opportunity for sure. In addition to the 5 SEAL Secrets website, is to tell folks where they can come, because I'm assuming on your Naked Warrior website, there's some background, they can get educated on CBD, they can get some information in order to make an informed decision. And I'm speaking from personal experience because I'm going to really look into getting some of this stuff because I'm 50 years old this year. And I'm going to tell you, it doesn't feel like tomorrow's not going to feel better getting out of bed than yesterday did. I can tell you that. So 100%. I'm going to look into it for sure, but I need to get informed. So where can they go?
So the CBD website is NW for Naked Warrior -recovery.com. You can also type in Naked Warrior Recovery, all one word.
Yeah.
But I changed the actual URL because some people may not want to write naked in their search engine. Not sure why. Gotcha. It just like it's a NW-recovery.com. And for your listeners, I'm going to create a discount code as soon as we hang up the phone here.
Yeah.
And it'll be LIL20 for last in line 20 LIL20. And it'll save 20%.
That's perfect. I appreciate that, man. We're going to get that out.
All purchase.
Because I can tell you, my audience for the most part is probably over 40, and that 40 to 60 range, as well as I do. I'm assuming you're over 40. We're gonna need some sort of. The inflammation bug is coming for us.
Yeah.
So, man, I love what you're doing. And I love that you're focused on really that military service member or the first responders, because that population definitely has a need for more than just products to help kind of calm the flames inside them, but they need some mindset awakening as well. And just like we all do. So, man, Will, I appreciate, man, on behalf of the audience, thank you so much. Do you have, you have one thing for the audience that you can challenge them with right now? This one brief, quick, like piece of gold that you're going to get somebody off the couch today with this statement.
I would say if you want to make an actual change in your life, you need to make bold adjustments.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, I was a sniper instructor. And my part of my job, you would think that all Navy SEALs were good at sighting in their weapon. They're not, and they don't like swimming either, but that's a different story. So what I would find oftentimes is, especially in leaders a lot of times, is that they would, we'd be on the range with a new weapon, a new sight, a new whatever, and they would, make these adjustments to their sights, and the bullet impacts weren't really going anywhere. They're like, just like round after round after round, all in the same spot. And when I would see this happen, because I would see the frustration, like I'm not getting where I need to go, where my bullets aren't going where they need to go. I'm not getting where I need to go in life, whatever it is. Yeah. I'm making these changes. I would walk over and I would take their gun and I would make these just obscene, ridiculous changes and just like torque their sights, just like you would think that they were going to fly off the paper and do like a 90-degree turn when the bullet left the gun. And so I would hand the weapon back to them and they're like, you went too far. I'm like, let's see, 100% of the time. And then they would shoot. Yes, the bullet impacts would be on the other side of the bullseye, but they would be very close to the bullseye, just on the other side. And then they could make those minor adjustments to bring the rounds to the center of the bullseye. And so the same thing happens in life. We end up taking these, like, we think we need to make some change, and we do like a little thing and a little thing and a little thing. Do something big and bold, and do like almost the opposite, not the wrong thing, but do the opposite of what you like. Oftentimes what you think, that's, if you think it's too big, then that's probably where you need to start of a change that you need to make.
That's good.
Do bold adjustments. And so that's kind of the last thing that I'll leave you.
That's awesome, because I think that allows you to get your perspective magnified a little bit more, because these minor ones, your perspective still kind of laser focused. And so the big ones get you some more perspective, and you can see a difference made, even though it's not on target completely. Now you know how to back in to that bullseye,
right?
To your point,
even if you went too far, that's okay. Right. You know about how much you need to come back.
That's right, man. I love it, man. So audience, it's been an honor for me to have Will on. And so with that, he's been Will Branum. We've been Last in Line. Be blessed.